Hello and welcome. My name is Abisola Legba. This presentation from REACHReady will survey the current regulatory requirements and emerging landscape as it pertains to UK REACH. REACHReady is a subsidiary of the Chemical Industries Association, the UK trade association working for chemical and pharmaceutical businesses. We are a subscription-based organisation with subscribers worldwide in wide-ranging industry sectors, from chemical manufacturers to retailers. Our ethos is based on helping companies achieve their own compliance in a cost-effective manner. As we all know, the UK is no longer a member state of the EU, and the transition period has ended. EU regulations stopped applying to the UK on the 31st of December, and it was replaced by equivalent UK regulations. The UK now has a separate regime to regulate chemicals, which came into effect on from the 1st of January 2021. It is noteworthy here that UK REACH applies only to England, Scotland and Wales. Before I continue also, in this presentation you would see that the words UK and GB are used interchangeably. So EU REACH will continue to apply in Northern Ireland under the Northern Ireland Protocol. The EU and UK Trading Cooperation Agreement was reached and finalised by the 31st of December 2020. Now that the transition period is over, there are implications for UK businesses and the UK regulator, which is the Health and Safety Executive, HSE for short. One implication is that UK, again GB registrations and authorisations under REACH obtained before the UK left the EU has become non-existent in the EU unless it was transferred to an EU entity before given deadlines. Another implication is that the UK authority is no longer able to access REACH dossiers through ECHA. Re-registration is required in the UK. We will speak more on registration in subsequent slides. Another implication also is that companies may need access to data in order to comply with UK law. A lack of specific data sharing agreement between the UK and EU authorities, however, means that it is down to companies to negotiate arrangements or agreements rather for UK REACH on a substance individual basis. It is worth noting that importers from the EU who would have previously been downstream users may now have new obligations on the UK REACH, such as registration obligations. UK REACH and EU REACH exist as separate REACH regimes, and divergence is expected to be seen in both regimes in the future. Your obligation for maintaining access to the UK market and complying with UK REACH will depend on your role in the supply chain. For example, if you are an existing UK registration holder, your obligations will change. If you are a UK company that is using chemicals from from a supplier based in the EU, your obligations will change, or you might have obligations, or you will have obligations rather. Again, if you are a UK company, for example, and exempt under the product and process oriented research and development, that could also have a play in you maintaining access to the UK market. Again, for example, with regards to authorisation, if you are a UK-based REACH authorisation holder, or you are a UK company relying on authorisations held by EU companies, again, your obligation will be dependent on your roles. So we would advise, for example, that the first step in just making sure that you're compliant with UK REACH is just knowing your obligations or where you stand or where you sit in your supply chain. The main processes and pillars of EU REACH are the same for UK REACH also. The difference is that duties in REACH is to UK. So for UK and EU REACH, the differences is that duties in REACH is to the UK and UK REACH, and so again Scotland, England and Wales, and it's for manufacturers, importers and downstream users, and then it involves a fee to the HSC, for example, in registration rather than to ECHA in the EU. With regards to registration, registration is a process that requires companies to collate information, and more details we'll go into that in more details in subsequent slides. So registration applies to substances manufactured or imported into the UK over a tonne per year. The idea is to work with other registrants to collate and share data and submit that data to the HSC. With regards to evaluation, evaluation is like the quality control check part of the process, because the various evaluation processes are led by either ECHA or in the EU side of things, but in the UK it's led by HSC. And that basically is to ensure information that is coming in is adequate and that the risks that are managed are adequately managed, the risk being adequately managed as well. It's worth noting that evaluation links to other processes of REACH, namely authorisation and restriction, and in fact it links to other legislation such as the CLP legislation, so the classification, labelling and packaging legislation. Evaluation on the REACH focuses on three different areas. So first, the examination of testing proposals submitted by registrants, compliance checks for dossiers submitted by registrants, and then also substance evaluation. Once the evaluation is done, registrants may be required to submit further information on the substance. With regards to authorisation, authorisation identifies substances of very high concern on the candidate list for authorisations. Authorisation prohibits use and supply of Annex 14 substances in the UK. Authorised substances are listed in Annex 14 of the regulation. If a substance is on the candidate list, it will trigger communication obligations for all parts of the supply chain. It is worth noting that authorisations, or with authorisations rather, exemptions apply and permissions may be granted if those are written, if applications are written to the HSC. With regards to restriction, restriction restricts the use and the presence of substances in listed applications and products. Restrictions are listed in Annex 17 of the regulation, of the REACH regulation. After the UK left the EU, the UK government put in place transitional provisions to ensure continuity of business. Now, the transitional measures were put in place to minimise risks to supply chains and also to give industry time to adjust. One of such provisions is that of grandfathering. So before continuing, it's worth noting that this provision, that is the grandfathering provision, is now completed, although the HSC has published that companies can contact them in case of late submissions. Now, the grandfathering provision was completed on the 30th of April 2021, and it applied to UK companies who held REACH registrations at any point after the 29th of March 2017. Which is the date the UK notified its intention to leave the EU, and before the 31st of December 2020, which is the end of the transition periods. Again, another transition arrangement that was put in place by the UK government is the downstream user imports notification. Now, this transitional arrangement is likely to be one of relevance to companies importing into the UK market. The DUIN, for short, applies to former UK-based downstream users or distributors under EU REACH who are relying on registrations held by EU suppliers or non-EU suppliers covered by EU-only representatives. The DUIN or DUIN applies to former UK users or distributors under EU REACH who were in at any time in the 2-year period, so that's 2017 and the end of 2020 before the 1st of January 2021, who were already a downstream user or distributor under EU REACH and who were established in the UK in relation to a substance. For the notification and registration, there is a possibility for non-UK manufacturers or formulators to appoint a UK-based OR to notify or register if they wish to relieve UK customers from the requirements. The DUIN is a transitional arrangement, so eventually companies will need to register as normal depending on their substance hazard profile and tonnage level. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this transition arrangement, like the grandfathering also, was set up by the UK government to help to minimise disruption to businesses. The generation of the DUIN is done, first of all, in the comply with UK REACH. And again, it's only the first step in the DUIN process. Hence, the DUIN number alone is not proof that you have submitted the DUIN correctly. To complete the DUIN process or the doing process, the additional information that needs to be sent is a spreadsheet which must be submitted to the HSC. There's a given website that, or there's a given email address that you can send that to, which is the ukreach.duin notification@hsc.gov.uk. That email address and more information can be found on the HSC website. You should then receive a form of acknowledgement of your submission of the spreadsheet from the HSC. The HSC advises that you then document and retain relevant information, including copies of the emails containing the DUIN spreadsheet that you sent to them, and any subsequent acknowledgements that you get as well. And what would happen is that this will form part of the evidence to support your compliance in case you were ever challenged by enforcement authorities. Now, the HSC has also said that they would prefer that all substances eligible for the doing provision for the same legal entity were submitted in one spreadsheet. However, where it's not possible, submitting multiple spreadsheets is allowed and it's acceptable. The HSC has said, though, that if you do submit multiple spreadsheets, then you need to send your DUIN or when you send your DUIN Excel spreadsheets to them, it will be helpful for you to include a cover email just stating that you've previously submitted a DUIN spreadsheet covering a proportion of substances for the same legal entity. The HSC has said that that would just help them just to ensure that the spreadsheets are grouped and filed accordingly. This slide details the UK REACH registration timelines, which I mentioned are based on the hazard profile and tonnage of your substance. The deadline for tonnage level of 1,000 tonnes or more per year for substances that are hazardous with the properties of carcinogenic, mutagenic or toxic to reproduction, which are 1 tonne per year, or substances which are very toxic to the aquatic environment or aquatic organisms rather, acute or chronic, 100 tonnes per year, or substances with a hazard property that are candidate list substances as of the 31st of December 2020. The deadline for those that tonnage band and those hazardous properties is the 27th of October 2023. Again, for the tonnage band of 100 tonnes or more per year, and for the hazardous property of candidate list substances as at 27th of October 2023, the deadline for that is the 27th of October 2025. For the tonnage band of 1 tonne per year, the deadline for that is 27th of October 2027. If you import for the first time after the end of the transition period and you have to register, grandfathering or notifications or the DOI notifications do not apply. Registration is required prior to the manufacture or the imports of any of the substances reaching the 1 ton per year threshold. Now, the one substance, one registration concept was maintained in UK REACH, whereby the lead registrant makes the initial submission of the full data set and co-registrants submit their own dossier. The lead registrant functionality in the UK REACH IT system was activated from July 2021. And it's just worth mentioning, just based on information that we get from our help desk at REACHReady, that some workability issues were identified by companies, or companies came in identifying issues with regards to just the functionality at the moment. So, for example, some of the things that companies said so far were, for example, no possibilities to see other participants until the inquiry was submitted, or you know, the registration happened in the EU, but it's not yet in the UK, or the UK data sharing provisions refer to the substances that were registered. It's worth noting that, you know, if you do come across any teething problems in this regard, it's worth just contacting the HSC directly. Now, beyond registration, as I mentioned earlier, you have authorization, restriction, and evaluation. Now, the EU candidate lists and authorization list and the restriction list moved across to UK law by the end of the transition period. And with regards to including substances on these regulatory lists, for UK REACH, this process is similar to EU REACH. However, some differences include the fact that HSC now produces and ECHA leads on decisions on chemicals. And so also there will be consent from the devolved administrations of Scotland and Wales, where areas of devolved competence is required. And then also the UK, unlike EU REACH, will incorporate independent scientific advice to inform UK REACH with regards to authorization and restriction decisions as well. So the HSC will assess all the substances that have been submitted for substances of very high concern identification in the EU to date. So if they're not already on the UK REACH candidate list, and they will then consider if they're appropriate for SVHC identification in UK REACH. In the future, the HSC has said that they will select candidate substances for SVHC identification from a wider range of sources, reflecting the identified issues in the UK or Great Britain as a whole. With regards to authorization, the HSC in August 2021 published the first draft recommendations for Annex 14, for the Annex 14 list, so the authorization list, and it comprises of 2 of 7 substances ECHA proposed in April 2021 for the addition for the authorization lists under the EU REACH. Now, the 2 substances that were proposed were disodium octaborate and the dicyclohexylphthalates. Now, the public consultation for these substances are now open until 30th of November 2021. The final recommendation is to be sent to the appropriate authorities by the 31st of December, and a decision will be made as well, according to the HSC. Now, UK-based REACH authorization holders had to submit information by the 1st of March 2020 to the HSC. That information sent to the HSC included the information included for authorizations that would have been sent to ECHA at the time. So technically, For example, if you were a GB-based REACH authorization holder and you were relying on authorizations by EU businesses, you can maintain your use and your supply for use, providing you submitted like a notification to the HSC by the deadlines of March 2021. Now, if as a company your authorization application was submitted to ECHA, but it wasn't determined, you would need to submit an application, authorization application to the HSC, and the latest deadline was extended by 18 months from the end of the transition period, and that depends on specific circumstances as well. With regards to UK evaluation, the HSC has said that the first draft Rolling Action Plan is to be published by the 31st of December 2021, but evaluation itself would not occur until 2022, and then that will be updated on an annual basis. It is noteworthy that the UK will seek to complement rather than replicate evaluation work performed by the EU REACH and other regimes as well. Now, this is just a note on notable legislative developments in the UK on the UK REACH so far. It just included that is embedded 3 implementing acts into the legal text, and so one of them was a 3-year rolling average, which was actually replaced in the EU in 2019 to 1 year for the tonnage ban calculation. So that now, according to the HSC, is now embedded in legal text, and so the UK will adopt that as well. So of the other 2 things that have been embedded into the legal text for UK REACH includes the dossier timelines and updates by ECHA, which was published last year in 2020, and then also the transposing of some EU authorizations that were granted before the end of the transition period. Now, just to conclude, here are some practical things I'll leave you with for businesses and what they can do. One thing you can do is to be mindful of the 2-fold impacts of both EU and UK markets. Also, you can identify your place in the supply chain post-Brexit, track your volumes to determine your registration obligations, take advantage of the UK transitional arrangements. As I mentioned earlier, the deadline for the downstream user import notification is the 27th of October 2021, so there's still time, and you can it's worth checking and noting if you do apply, or if you're able to use those transitional arrangements. It's also will be a good idea to engage your substance groups early and just form a strategy with regards to cost sharing and those implications. I think just generally it's just worth being prepared and starting early with regards to all the plans for UK REACH compliance as well. And just in the future, it's just worth monitoring just future developments, one as such being the UK chemical framework, which is expected in 2022. Now coming to an end, I'll finally like to draw your attention to some upcoming events for REACHReady. So one of them is the Know Your CLP Obligations, which is an introduction for formulators and importers, and it's aimed at companies that import mixtures from non-UK suppliers or formulate their own products, and for anyone who is responsible for classification and labeling, as well as just anyone who is responsible for the product stewardship issues in your company. So it will be of particular value in that regard. So again, another event that's coming up on the 20th of October 2021 is the UK REACH Registration Data Essentials event. That is meant to help to demystify just the whole information requirements for UK REACH. We believe that this would help companies so they know and they can ensure they have an understanding of what's essential for their registrations, And then it can also help so that companies don't end up paying for data that they don't need. If you think your company falls in that category, I think it will be a helpful event to attend. And lastly but not the least, at the moment, is another event we have, which is Reach the Basics, which is just an introductory place, and I believe it's an excellent place to start for companies who are beginning, or individuals and companies who are beginning with REACH obligations, or just want to know just in terms of the UK and EU REACH and what that covers. I think that would be helpful in that regard. And on that note, I'll just like to also say thank you very much for listening. If you need further information, please do visit our website or write to us at inquiries@reachready.co.uk. Thank you very much. Bye.